Oh, here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Morbid Symptoms Podcast. Tony and Tara are back. It's been a couple of months, but we're starting over. We just couldn't stay away. Too much to say. Anyway, how you doing, Tony?
I'm doing great, actually. I'm having a lovely experience of life since we last had an episode. So
yeah, do tell.
Just basically.
I mean, obviously it's private. But
oh, okay.
What's going on, Tony?
Yeah, just like I don't know. I just I've found my sort of reconciliation within the world fully. I have energy, I have purpose, I have direction, and I know when to say no. You know what I mean? So.
Okay.
And I'm also dating people, so it's
was there something that set that off, or do you just kind of?
I think it was a process. Obviously, I think our podcast definitely helped in that regard. I think in the beginning of because I think in the beginning I was struggling with a sense of like.
Why am I doing this?
No, not at all. It was more so.
It was more crazy so. Woman and why?
No. It was more so. It was more so a sense of like, am I really this kind of person? Am I really this kind of like person? This kind of political person? And it's like, yeah, I am. Yes, I am this kind of person, and so I accept who I am. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, no, I get that. Oh well, I mean, we're several people, aren't we?
True.
Probably not the same time as we get confused, but it's like, it's just yeah. Well, I also like the last couple of months. I don't want to get into it, but I kind of my mood, for lack of a better word, just kind of fell off a cliff. And and I was like thinking, I should stay with the podcast and on Twitter and all that. But I literally, because like I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything worthwhile to say. What am I doing? This type of they get in this loop. And that's what I knew, that my mood really shifted when I had nothing to say. I can't think of anything to tweet to save my life, or just like I thought, but then it's just, you start, and I'm like, really, Tara, the world needs another podcast and another hot takes and this and that. And it's kind of everything. But thank you for checking in with me every once in a while on Twitter. I appreciated it.
Thank you.
But yeah, life happens, I guess. I mean, it's been like so many years since I had an episode like that it really surprised me. Maybe I probably wasn't paying attention to the signs, but this was really like dark. And of course, there's things going on in the world, the Gaza genocide and all the other craziness. Also, you forget that it can, even though you're not in the thick of it, that it can have an impact. But not that I want to, make that about me. But anyway, Morbid Symptoms Podcast. Maybe we'll keep the name. I don't know. You understand the reasoning behind Morbid Symptoms, and so do I. But it's one of those things. If you have a podcast name, you probably don't want to have to explain it to people. Morbid Symptoms is not like a cancer diagnosis, like.
True. Like some of the others. Yeah. Like some of those other podcasts are like very direct in their names, right? Like Revolutionary Black Network.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Or if you have a name recognition, then you can just use your name. But it's like, I'm like, this is the Tara and Tony podcast. You'd be like, what?
Right.
Oh well. I'm sure anyone who's listening right now is very, very like we tuned in for this. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about let's see what's been going on this past week. So we're going to talk about Dylan Mulvaney's "Hips Don't Lie." Whenever we're meant to be together. And also because he dropped his Days of Girlhood, fantastic empowerment video for all girls. I know I saw myself in that video. And it happened the same week that the WPATH files came out with Michael Schellenberg, and the NHS in the UK is saying, yeah, maybe we shouldn't be experimenting on kids with strong puberty blockers and all this, and pretending that it's a pause and all that. And then, we're going to talk a bit about LGBTQ capture of the left in question mark. And that kind of also ties in with, we're going to be looking at Haas Eldon infrared Haas, or I'm not really familiar with that whole part of the left. I mean, I know enough to know about the MAGA communism and all this type of thing.
Right.
Because Professor Tutt was mocking, was taking shots at MAGA communism on his Twitter page, and some of the people snapped back. But it ended up being a good thing. Long story short, Haas invited him to have a tete-a-tete on his stream, and it was very, I think you watched it, yeah?
Yeah, I got at least 52 minutes into it while I was doing things today.
But very substantive, yeah, and it was really interesting to watch. I mean, psychoanalytically, it was really interesting to watch. So we're gonna, so Dylan Mulvaney, Hips Don't Lie. We're gonna talk about that. LGBTQ plus capture of the left, the non-class focused, anchored left, maybe we could say, and kind of just thinking about like how exactly that happened and how it's kind of weird, at least in my opinion. But there was an article by Jennifer Billick that came out that I also shared with you that kind of makes sense. Like, okay, how the irony of such a capital techno anti-human type of project that for somehow they've gotten most of the left just to totally be useful idiots for, with no question, because of course if you question, you're bad and traditional or transphobic or all that stuff. And so it's just really, I mean, people will be unpacking this for a very long time once the fever breaks, because it's just lots of things to think through. Anyway, and then again, Tony and I will be watching and commenting on Haas and Daniell Tutt's tete-a-tete, which is also an interesting, and that kind of, and if once, for those of you who haven't seen it, once we show it, you'll all understand the LGBTQ thing is a common theme through each three of our segments. So let's see, I think I uploaded files. Let's see, slides. Okay, so yeah, so Dylan Mulvaney dropped a video, I don't know, Days of Girlhood, or it's a street, yeah, I don't know, a week of girlhood, I don't know what it is. He goes through his days of the week as a girl, and he's, taking pills and having a one-night stand and walk of shame and pillow fights. I know what's going on there. But anyway, the Washington Times says here, Dylan Mulvaney dances on Bud Light's grave in new music video, The Patriarchy's Over. And I wrote, Dylan is the new face of patriarchy. Let that sink in. And it's just so bizarre for me if I think about it. It's just like, who would have thought that men who say they are women or who identify as women, who take on these kind of really, hyper stereotypical, sexualized, objective, whatever thing is, and those of us who have an issue with it we're basically told to be quiet, or it's you're a dinosaur, or it's gender and sex is different, all this stuff. So it's just odd that Dylan Mulvaney is, I think it's an accurate statement to say that this is the new face of patriarchy, and how bizarre that is. I mean, I know that some people way back when, Jermaine Greer and others in the 60s and 70s were trying to wave a flag about transsexuals, but it's just really, I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this statement that Dylan is the new face of patriarchy?
I mean, I think I came to that conclusion through my journey within feminism, that Western man had started to try to use the female body to experience what Western man was being neglected within the experience in society. And to me, that ran the gamut from jobs to popularity to being sexually wanted by someone, to even like clothing and fashion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I wonder though, because I mean, yeah, just to pause you there for a second. Of course, I'm not in Dylan Mulvaney's mind, but I can't imagine anyone looking at him and being like, oh, I want that. But of course, I'm not into sissy porn and all this stuff. So I realize that sexuality and tastes and all that are the spectrum. But I don't see him as sexual. I see him as kind of a weird kind of dystopian woman face minstrel. And also he needs a sandwich. Someone needs to check in on because I'm thinking like, you anorexic or what? Because
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean that. Yeah, I'm gonna
I mean, I
do
know
what
you're not just talking about him.
yeah, I'm gonna do what social scientists are supposed to do, right? We're supposed to do like that participant
Ooh,
observation,
you
right? And we're
tell
supposed to
me.
like kind of right? We're supposed to go out in the field and sort of make our
We're supposed to affirm whatever concept comes out of techno capitalism. No, sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, so from I have like two, I don't know, anecdotes or examples to sort of like kind of
Lay 'em
prove
on me,
this.
brother.
Yeah, one of them
Well,
was
I know
one of them
we
was
don't. This is a podcast, so we don't have the same burden of proof as if we're like at a Senate committee or submitting to a journal or something.
well, okay,
We
so
try to not totally out of our ass. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So one of them, okay, so one example would be so when I first attended college in 2017, I met this young man who was experiencing, the alienation and all that kind of stuff. He was working in a kitchen at this Asian restaurant in Cerritos, California. He had this female friend who he wanted to date. She was actually a very beautiful Russian woman. And, he started to ask me for advice and those kind of things. And, I told him, I was like, oh, why don't you, just kind of tell her and, see where it goes and ask her out and stuff like that. But he was also dealing with the fact that he was like he had some sort of sexual anxiety over himself. I think he had issues with his libido. He also had confidence issues and things of that nature. And mind you, he was a millennial, and he he later revealed to me that he was that he had been hanging out with her, but he had not been hanging out with her alone. He had been hanging out with her and her boyfriend. And I was like, huh?
Uh,
Right. And he kind of revealed how cowardly he was. Anyway, so we're in my professor Janet's classroom. Janet, who's a great mentor to me still to
Face is
this still
part of I only see your one eyeball.
huh? Oh, I'm sorry. Uh
No,
so yeah, so we're in Janet's classroom after class, right? Okay, so we're in Janet's classroom after class, right? And he tells me and Janet that the reason why he's been growing out his hair was because he wants to become a woman. And I was so shocked. Obviously, Janet being
well, that does it. If you grow out your
yeah,
hair, that's that's
right,
the
but
boundary.
yeah. So
Sorry,
yeah, and
I'm
so
in a mood. Tell
Janet,
me.
so Janet being obviously a socialist herself, but also being not really understanding what the context of him saying that was trying to be nice and like give him advice and stuff. But I was standing there in complete disgust because I immediately understood that the reason why he wanted to become a woman was because there was nothing in the experience that he was having as a man where he felt comfortable in being a man. So he decided to adopt LGBT identity to sort of feel that sense of encompassing, to gain popularity, to gain friends, to gain potentially a mate. And so
Did you ever suggest this to him in some way?
no, because after he said that,
Okay.
I was all like, "Fuck this dude," because I thought he was a pussy. So um, that's just my,
Okay.
you know,
Trigger warning.
yeah, you know what I mean. So yeah, but I watched him over the years essentially become that. And this person now remains a complete neurotic
So
mess.
just like it's kind of castrated, kind of just emasculated,
Say that
and
again?
just kind of is that what you mean? I mean, because
Yeah,
you
he was.
said he was being a pussy, which of course some people will take offense to that word because it's like so he was being a woman, but no, I know what you meant
No,
by
no.
it, and I'm not gonna.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what you meant by that. Like he just kind of let himself be emasculated or kind of
Yeah, he let
castrated, not
himself.
like literally,
Yeah,
but just,
he
just
exactly
like,
like he
okay, I'm
let
just
him.
gonna start, I'm gonna face whatever I have this idea of feminine side, and see how that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. He completely let himself be completely emasculated. He let himself become essentially a sort of like where the experience of life for him was extremely passive, where he became basically one of those people, one of those millennial type of dudes who is content to be like a friend to everyone, but really not have anything beyond that. So that's what I meant by using. Yeah, so that's kind of what I observed in that situation. In regards to a different situation, there's obviously a fetish, very overt fetish aspect to it. My sister Vanessa was working at the Cerritos Mall, and there was this man your age who would come during the weekends dressed as a 50s
Don't you
housewife.
know
Huh? Well,
my, my age?
yeah, well, yeah,
He was of
well,
a certain
okay,
age. I
right,
know that
right.
my root syndrome. I know that I gotta dry my hair quick, but anyway, sorry. I'm just sorry. Go. Look at
Right.
that.
Okay.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah. So 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 there was this man who would come to the
This
mall
hot
where my
straight.
there was
Sorry.
this
Sorry.
no, you're fine.
Should I just say? Should I just tell you something?
What? Oh, okay. You're liquored up. Okay. But
Well,
okay. So yeah. So basically, there was this like fully grown adult man who would come to the mall dressed as a 50s housewife and just simply walk through the mall. That was it. That's all he did was just walk through the mall dressed as a woman.
being his true self.
Being his true self. But he wouldn't buy anything. He wouldn't interact with
On my
anyone.
gender journey. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't buy anything. He just would walk through the mall fully dressed as a woman and looking like a 50s housewife. And
Oh, he was
so
getting
there's,
something.
yeah. No. Vanessa said, my sister said that
I
he
think
would
they call
never,
it gender euphoria
yeah.
erections.
Oh, okay. Jesus. Okay.
These things I know, yeah. Euphoria work. That's why the woman's bathroom is so important. Gotta get that gender euphoria
Oh,
going on.
Lord. Okay.
I only know
Yeah.
this because I unquote listened to trans women, and now I know these things that I can't unknow.
Yeah. So I
Anyway,
guess if that's, yeah. So I guess if that's the reason
there
why
is
that
so
man,
much, yeah.
huh?
Yeah, it can go into the idea of that you're like, that you're walking around as a quote unquote as a woman or dressed as a woman, and then you go into spaces and people are pretending or regarding you as that. You get the kind of the power trip, but also the recognition. I guess that is the idea that you tell. I'm like, I don't know. I guess you're telling yourself, oh, people think I'm a woman. That gets them off. Even though my guess is, as you said, he probably wasn't. Most times they're not fooling anybody. But yeah. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. So he walks around the mall like a 50s housewife, you said?
Yeah, dressed head to toe as like a housewife from the 1950s, complete with like a big pearl necklace. Yeah, like,
Maybe mom issues too. I don't know.
huh?
Maybe he has mom issues as well. Who knows?
I think that's
Yeah.
okay. So I have some thoughts to that, especially in regards to my generation of men, the millennial. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so during the 2010s, right? There was like so by the like 2014, 2015 range, a lot of like the men of my generation who were either like still virgins, nerds, and virgins and nerds really. They started to like basically.
What was that elite college thing, the Skull and Bones or something? It'd be like the
Yeah, what about
opposite,
it?
the virgins and nerds.
But okay, so yes,
Kidding.
okay,
Sorry.
so yeah, okay, so what happened? So what happened?
No problem. Or nerd virgins or virgin nerds. All
Yeah,
welcome.
yes,
Go ahead.
yeah. So what happened was
Inclusive.
by
Inclusive. We're going for that solid star DEI rating. Nerd
Okay,
versus
look.
virgin nerds do
Yes, yes.
not feel like not being seen and appreciated.
Okay, look. Okay. So by 2015, a lot of the dudes who were virgins and nerds started to a lot of those kind of guys started to realize that they weren't gonna ever they weren't
Incel in a nice way?
huh
Are you trying to say incel, but in a nice way?
yeah, I'm gonna get to it. So those a lot of guys who were virgins and nerds by who were still virgins and nerds by 2015 and had sort of like quasi socialist or quasi like left aesthetics in terms of like they weren't reactionary, but they were too soft to like they had came up in an era where like even though we experienced the Great Recession and everything like that, but before that, everyone still kind of grew up like middle class and like everyone, like a lot of like the men of my generation, was like, they spent too much time around their moms. Like growing up, my male friends, like we were always around their moms. Like their moms would pick us up. My mom would pick them up. Like, we're going to the market, we're going somewhere else, da 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 da. That was kind of like part of the lifestyle. So anyway, but by like 2015, the dudes who were still virgins and nerds, they started to they sort of accepted their sort of huh?
I'm sorry. I don't know what people so by the time the virgins and
Well, hold on. I'm not okay. So by like
no, but
2015,
this is
right?
important. What you're saying, I need to understand. Are you saying virgins and nerds or virgin nerds?
Virgin nerds. There you go. That's the one.
Because I'm like, that was the thing. Is like there's because you can be virgin for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Okay, so I'll say that they were
not,
both. Yeah,
and not,
they.
okay. So virgin nerds,
Yes, yes,
involuntarily virgin nerds.
yes. Okay, so
Okay,
those kind of So those kind of guys, they didn't. They
Tony's term now.
okay, so those kind of guys, because like they didn't like, they never had any like sort of experience on like how to sort of like attract a
Being with
woman, be a
women.
man, yeah, like or be a man and stuff like that. Those kind of guys went into three different, like they went into like the same kind of lane where basically they decided to become essentially like they decided to become the friend to the woman of my generation, but in doing that that let them, because the women of my generation had already like started to experiment with like lesbianism, bohemian lifestyles, and things like that. Like, so they became those kind of women's friend, and through those kind of women, those dudes started to like dye their hair pink. They started to go to like concerts with Hasley. They started to like basically like become more and more feminine, or they like started to retreat into video games and things of that nature. So
Interesting. So what
yeah,
you're saying, so they
so
wanted
like
to be closer to women, and then instead of doing it like the more kind of what we do, like dating way or pickup way or whatever, they just kind of want to be in the vicinity and end up being kind of an accessory or kind of a friend.
bingo.
And
Yes,
instead of
that's
getting
it.
closer to women, and instead of getting closer to having a girlfriend or relationship, they just became more what they ever thought they would, the more of what they thought, like their friends, their version of their friends. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, and that's what
Okay.
happened. Yes, and that's what
Okay.
happened. That's what happened, and then okay, so that's what happened, and sort of by like by like 2016, 2017, like that's when all those dudes started to be like, okay, I'm transgender, and the reason why was because like they were too scared to basically they were just too scared. Like they didn't know, they were too scared to be men and to sort of like fuck it, I'll say it. They were too scared to have sex. And so they decided that they would become a woman's friend, and through being a woman's friend, my generation of woman, they ended up being like, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna become a woman. Because that's the only way that I'm gonna have
Okay.
sex. That's the only way I'm gonna have friends. That's the only way I'm going to like be like that's the only way. And I mean, you're a sociologist, right? What's that term? Limerence? What's it called?
What?
that limerence.
Limerence?
Limerence, Limmerence.
I'm not familiar.
Okay, well, basically, like the only way that they were going to have any status was through that, basically.
Okay. Okay.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, I
yeah.
mean, I think, of course, I think there's lots of, what they say, this is an overdetermined phenomena. And so I have no doubt that, I mean, what you just said makes sense to me, how much of, but there's so many people that identify under this moniker and, all kinds of things, but it makes sense that, I mean, I understand, I could see that happening. And I'm trying to think back in my mind now of people in my life before I was, squirreled away in being a mom and a wife and working and all that. Yeah, that I could see that happening. Yeah. So this is so thanks for that. So this is Rosin Michaud. I don't know if I'm saying her name right or not, but she's fantastic. Follow her on Twitter if you know that men can't be women. She's a good follow. So she's like, "Hips Don't Lie" is a deeply transphobic song. Has Shakira been canceled yet? And this cracked me up because I was had seen all these things where there was lots of tweets about Dylan, and I was like, "Yeah, those hips don't lie." So I found a picture of Shakira. Again, he's so skinny. I just don't see anything sexual about. It's weird because it's trying to be sexual or maybe camp, but I don't know what. I mean, I can't know his inner life, but it just seems like such a bizarre thing. Maybe it's just trolling. Maybe it's just for the clicks. I don't know. But it's like I don't see anything sexual or sexually appealing about this. It just seems like the most kind of,
okay. I have an answer to that.
That's for me. Yeah, tell me.
Oh, okay, so maybe I have an answer.
Left and right. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm glad you kind of revealed that sort of like gap in the road. Okay, so I have an answer to that because I recently did an ethnography within the LGBT community that I'll tell you off camera later on, and I'll show you the videos and pictures of it. Okay, so
Sorry, audience.
They have a sort of like to be quite frank, it's a pedophilic sort of sexual sort of like what he's like, what that man is
like some sort of twisted Peter Pan thing or something. Like
yeah, along
the prepubescent and
bingo. And there's like a whole so what he's presenting there is like a code to that community of like
really?
a sort they have like a
you think intentionally?
Yes, because yes, because like from what I've realized after I wrote that after I did the ethnography, wrote it and everything, is that this group of people, they're no longer this is no longer a subculture. It's more a it's become its own ethnicity akin to like gypsies or Irish travelers. Like so he's presenting within the sort of like coded he's presenting the code that his community those kind of people would understand. So the sort of sexuality being presented in that it's pedophilic, but it's not pedophilic from like a pedophile perspective. It's pedophilic in the sense where teenagers and kids it's like teenage kid sex like it's how a teenager or a child who now has a phone device, that's how they're going to be sexual to other teenagers. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's like if I could
paraphrase that for a second, what I understand what you just said is that it's kind of like what somebody who's kind of developmentally stunted, maybe at like a 10 or 11, what they would think from what they're watching around them, what they would think is how you be sexual, is how you be provocative, or how you be a quote unquote woman or a girl or whatever. And to us, it seems it seems uncanny, like there's something off. Like what, I don't know what am I watching here, at least in terms of the motivation behind it. I mean, I know that he's trying to get clicks and, all this stuff.
Right, which is also part of it. It's like
all this everything, but it's kind of like I was trying to like what. And they was having fun, and it just seemed like who's this for? Like the pervs who hang out by playgrounds and watch people play and okay, close.
Yeah, there's definitely
I don't get sex from this. Now that makes sense.
There's definitely an aspect of that as well, because there are
allegedly.
Yeah, there's definitely an aspect of that as well, because a lot of weird men do find like they find that, as I guess they have pedophilic inclinations, and they find that sort of like attractive, but it's more so like this sort of in-group sort of code in this sort of childish, as you just said, stunted sort of like it's like two 14-year-olds sexting. Do you know what I mean? Or sending nudes to each other. You know what I mean? That's how that community interacts. It has its own. It uses anime. It uses
you're saying it's kind of this weird mix of hypersexuality in terms of just the aesthetic and the talk and the innuendo, but also very childish or infantile at the same time. Is that what you're saying? That kind of mix.
Yes, okay. and it uses the female body. It uses the female body over the male body, even though that's starting to somewhat change. It's using the female body predominantly because the female body in our culture is seen as the thing to be. Kim Kardashian, Marilyn Monroe. It goes on and on and on. The female body.
More valuable.
Yes, it's more valuable, but I'm starting to see.
I said valuable, but it is more valuable.
Yes, but I'm also starting. Yes, there's actually a very new phenomena that's starting to sort of happen, and I think we will see this now over the next 3 years that I've been seeing now personally. Is that the Gen Z? There's a Gen Z man who essentially has gone beyond the sort of replication of the female, and is now starting to present itself as like a 7 or 8-year-old boy. If that makes sense.
Well, I know. I think you got to keep it fresh, because it gets old. So you got to turn it up. You got to have this season's brand of red lipstick or whatever. Maybe. So I mean, if they just do the same thing over and over again, I mean, I don't know. So okay. Anyway, I thought this was hilarious. Those hips don't lie. And someone got mad at me saying I was being mean to Dylan, and I'm like, yeah. It just cracks me up. It's like this guy's going to do this do this kind of display about quote unquote girlhood with all the subtext that you just highlighted so presently. I'm a actual woman. The whole thing, had 3 kids the old-fashioned way, all this stuff, and you're going to come and tell me that I have to make space for this guy and woman. And I'm like, fuck that. But it's just so hilarious to me. Like, he has to be this protected entity. I'm like, really? Going to the president, hanging out with Lady Gaga, getting all this money, taking the piss everywhere. He's the, the fragile thing that has to be saved. I'm like, go ahead. And it's just like bizarre. It just makes me laugh kind of now. I'm like, I find this hilarious. I'm like, if you can't, hips don't lie. I mean, fantastic song. And look at these hips. Hello. And someone will say, like, are you saying that, what about women with flat hips? You saying they're not women? I'm like, yeah, shit, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, no, I'm saying Dylan clearly isn't. Oh, and what else came out this week? Judith Butler, Judy they them Butler.
Right, you were going after her hard.
And no, well, not just me, but lots of people have written some reviews about her Who's Afraid of Gender book, which is basically, it's this old canard, like anybody who has an issue with it must be, a racist or evangelical or whatever. But it just kind of cracked me up because I was thinking, because Ibram X. Kendi, and I was like, in these AI things, I was like, I wonder if I could mix Ibram X. Kendi and Judith Butler. And so I'm like, so I couldn't resist doing it. So I was like, okay, Professor Judith X. Kendi Butler, they them. And she looks good. Or they look good, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. And then there's a new book coming out by them, The Meaningless Deepities of Judith X. Kendi Butler.
Yeah. That whatever that is looks like it would drive a motorcycle and have like a really big strap on. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like they've ever gotten near enough that I gotta be respectful. But I just for this, I was it was sad how pleased I was with myself that I thought of this and was able to find a free site, and I uploaded the picture, and it turned out pretty good. I was like, she's never looked better, or they've never looked better. It suits her. I take it back. But and if I could, and if anybody out there knows how to do a program, we could I guess I don't know if it would be an AI or what it would be. You put in all of Ibram X. Kendi's work, and you put in all of Judith Butler's work, and you just have it be amalgams, and then we would have like a Twitter page. We just we would call it Meaningless Deepities, and then by Professor Judith X. Kendi Butler, they them, and just once a day just tweet out this amalgam of X. Kendi Butlerisms. But I'm not high tech enough for that. But I was like, I spent a sad amount of time thinking about this yesterday.
Hey, but it came out great. This is probably the best one out of this one. I'm surprised that didn't go viral. Did it go viral? It's some way.
I was like, I'm compelled to to go trolling for anybody mentioning here, so I can add it to it like some frantic person trying to But I'm like, please. I'm glad that I'm not the only one that thinks so. I think that this is the most awesome thing. I mean, I wanted to find a picture that was more with the dreads, but here it's it's kind of, I guess it's I don't know, but it's I was really cool. I'm like, they them. I just love saying Professor Judith X. Butler. Yeah, but anyway, I was really tickled with myself. So anybody watching this, go to my Twitter, and if you can take the wrath of the gender studies Mafia, please do retweet it. Let's get this thing going. Yeah. Maybe they'll come on the pod and lecture and try to figure out why we're so afraid of gender.
That'd be hilarious.
I want to get a T-shirt made of this. Anyway.
Oh,
so
that would be perfect. That would be perfect. I'd wear that.
But
I'd wear that.
I mean, I don't know any tech people, but we should do this, Tony, because if we could make the Professor Judith X. Kendi Butler they them Twitter page and get some sort of program that kind of just generates statements that based on their work, I think that would be.
I'll get on that right after we're done here. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get on that.
I don't know what. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chat GPT, at least I think the paid version could do it. Like the $20 paid version of it.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think that would be nonstop giving.
Yeah, that would.
You marry gender trouble with the non-racist baby. I mean, come on, the gender troubled non-racist baby. How to raise a non-gender troubled or no a non-racist gender troublemaker baby. I don't know. But, I think that these two magnificent minds of the present moment really need to be brought in dialogue with each other, not just in the same body, but same purpose. You know what I mean? The ex Kendi Butler discourse. I think this could be, so good. So, but I'm not tech at all, but I was just like, this would be hilarious. And yeah, anyway, I'm glad that I'm not the only one. So going on to the LGBTQ plus and how it seems to have enthralled or captured or permeated every liberal to left, whatever that means, progressive institution. And Jennifer Billick, who's been writing on this for a long time, following the money aspect of it in particular, kind of being like, what's going on here? Like, why all of a sudden is everybody so concerned about, gender identity and all this stuff? And so anybody should check out Jennifer Billick's work and follow her. But she had, someone had interviewed her, and I'm not going to read the whole article, but I think in terms of what we've been talking about, just in terms of the idea of how this, getting an idea about what's been going on here, I just want to read one segment, and then we can talk about it. See what it brings up. So he asks her, Jennifer Billick, how has big money impacted the trajectory and influence of the transgender movement? And she says, Jennifer Billick, I prefer to characterize this phenomena as an industry rather than a movement. I'd agree. The focus lies on the creation of synthetic simulacrums of human reproductive characteristics, marketed for profit and human engineering. Contrary to a genuine human rights movement for the marginalized, synthetic sex characteristics are a corporate illusion. Those adopting them in an attempt to disown reality are not marginalized, nor are they a subcategory of our species' reproductive sex. The term transgender, in quotes, doesn't mean anything in regards to people. It lacks a clear, universally accepted definition, encompassing various and often contradictory meanings. It attempts to cover a broad spectrum from medical assaults impacting healthy reproductive organs to non-medical expressions of feelings about sexual stereotypes, sometimes involving surgery and drugs, and sometimes not. It is a sexual fetish or a form of resistance against culturally assigned behavioral norms based on one's sex. The concept of a cohesive community termed, quote, transgender is equally elusive. Instead, transgenderism emerges as a conglomerate driven by corporate pressures, grooming both adults and more significantly children into industrial body disassociation, a thriving business. Jennifer is OG. And so for me, it's like, of course, she's preaching to the choir here. But I think it's this idea that, what is being sold is totally the deconstruction, commodification of our biological sex. Mix and match, play, fun, whatever, all this stuff. Which of course you want not just the copyright at the corporate end, that has to be recognized in law as some, who would do this. And also, that's the question is we should be asking what is a woman, because a woman obviously is an adult human female and a man is an adult human male, but what is trans? So you can have a 14-year-old or a 12-year-old who, for whatever reason, is struggling with their body. And then you can have a 60-year-old man who really likes thinking of himself or feeling and thinking of himself as a woman. He gets off on that, AGP, autogonophilia, and all kinds of things in between. So these things really don't have anything to do with each other. But when you focus on the business side and of it, and of course, what that means culturally, politically, and whatever, everything just really becomes, I think it's a really important way to look at it. Do you have anything to say about this part?
I don't have anything directly to comment on it. I agree with it. I will say this, Whitney Webb, I think who you follow as well, has been writing about this now for the last few years. So it seems to me part of the sort of Western ruling class's agenda to essentially decapitate the labor population and to essentially turn us all, or turn what remains of the labor population into slaves.
Yeah, I mean, I once said this, and people looked at me weird, which is maybe it was weird, but I was like, there's an analogy here between the proletarianization and the genderization of sex. You know, there's something that's being enclosed off and privatized and commodified and widgeted around in an odd way. So you couldn't do that unless you're able to separate somehow sex from gender, just like you wouldn't be able to have a workforce if you weren't able to separate labor from the the means of production. So I haven't thought about too much, but there's an interesting analogy there. The genderization of sex is like the proletarianization of labor. I think there's something, at least that's what I thought about that. I might have thought about that when I first read some of her work.
Yeah, I think
Whitney
Webb has proved that correlation in her journalism.
Mm-hmm.
She's directly proved. Whitney, if you ever see this, holler at your boy, for you could come on here. But like, she's proved Whitney's journalism. Yeah, Whitney has proved the correlation.
I know, but I would say I don't want to steal Jennifer's thunder here. She's been working on this for a very long time before really anybody else was, and not getting not just being trouble for her efforts. The connection between transgenderism, transhumanism, tech, and capitalism. And when I agree with you, she has covered it, but it hasn't been her sole focus for 6-7 years.
True.
So I just want to say, of course, other people have as well, yeah. But I think that with the kind of focus on this particular configuration, and also getting to the core men, the core AGP men, all rich, very rich, who have been kind of at the forefront, the kind of founding fathers, if you will, of this, especially in law and institutions and whatnot.
Yeah, I want to ask you a question about that. Can I ask you a question about that? Because now that I can. Okay, now that we're on this article, when I read it today, it made me want to ask you two questions. Okay, so I have a background.
Hold on, Tony. I just have one more screenshot of it, and then I want to hear what you have to say. Can we do?
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just this. I'm not going through the whole thing. It's just this one. Her answer to this one question. Yeah. And then I want to hear what you have to say.
Okay. Sounds good.
So this is about where's the question? How has big money impacted transgender movement? She continues. Fueled by the additional capital from investors and philanthropists, an industry dedicated to disassociation from the sex body has experienced explosive growth. Individuals who may not fully comprehend the nature of this industry are profiting from it. Notable figures like Whoopi Goldberg are associated with modeling agencies catering to those attempting to disown their sex. Artists capture images of individuals with synthetic sex identities. She doesn't want to use gender, yeah? She doesn't want to use the opponent's language. TV programs featuring characters attempting to disassociate socially and medically from their sex reality, and law firms profit from lawsuits involving those wanting to disown their sex or protect the legal category of sex. The propaganda generated by this revenue stream has deeply entrenched the ideology of quote-unquote transitioning sex into the market. A simple Google search for transgender magazine covers for 2020 reveals an abundance of magazines conveying a consistent message. It's noteworthy these publications are part of conglomerates with medical tech platforms and investments enjoying support from asset management firms like BlackRock. Okay, so what did you want to? What came to mind when you were reading over the longer article that this excerpt is from?
Okay, so that article provoked this in me, and I want to ask you this because I asked two of my professors who are socialists this as well, and I want to see what your response is. So the first question I want to ask you is, have you been religious? Are you religious? And then two, do you have a knowledge of the Western esoteric tradition?
Tony, I could answer a multiple choice definition of what it is. Yeah, let's see, religious. I didn't grow up in a religious family. I had some religious friends, so I had two of my really close friends and growing up were Catholic. And so when I would stay the night at their house, as you do when you're younger, I'd go to church with them. I was always quite interested in it. I took a sociology of religion class when I was in college. When I was in Palestine for 2 years, I got really into Karen Armstrong's History of God and this type of thing. So I find it interesting as like an object of study, and of course, it's obviously very much part of what's that phrase? Human experience, humanity. And I don't know. Now that I'm getting older, and things seem so. I look at my kids, and I'm like, sometimes it just seems so. I think to myself, oh, I wonder if it'd be good for them if we joined some sort of, church. But the problem is, just for the community of it and for something transcendent, something. But the thing is, I don't believe in. I can believe obviously that, we don't know. There's things out there, there's spirit, there's all this type of stuff. But like, it would be weird if I said, okay, like I would want to go to Unitarian church, even though I don't believe in their, it feel kind of weird. Like I want to go for the social part, for the community part, and for maybe the values part, but I don't want to go for like, I would feel a bit weird, because, I think obviously humans invented God, God didn't invent humans. That's the term for it. But the idea that, of course, what we comprehend and what life is and all that. I'm sounding very much like Russell Brand now. Like a believer, like that I would 2 months ago when I was really in a deep, dark depression, I thought maybe I should leave and become a nun so my family doesn't have to deal with this weird, all of a sudden dark lady. And that cracked me up. I thought, where is that coming from? How could I go be a nun and be like, or like, a wife of Christ or something? But these things rattle around. So who knows?
Right.
I think that the absence of religion, as such, and that when everything becomes so secular and marketized and fleeting, I think that's a problem. So I guess I'll leave it there. But anyway, so I don't look down on people who are religious, people of faith, like who like really believe that whatever. I don't so there's that, but go ahead. Except
Okay,
if you're
so
a Scientologist or a member of the Church of Daniell, then full mocking, and the Mormons too a bit. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad that. Okay, so I'm glad that you cleared that up, right? But okay, so my response.
I was expecting you to ask me that. I was like, well, I don't know.
Okay, but because the reason why I ask that is because it's clear to me after following this article, following the work of Whitney's, and following Nick Bryant's journalism as well. And okay, so we can acknowledge that maybe there are things out there that we don't understand. They don't necessarily have to be magical, but what I've come to understand through following all of these threads and really doing essentially journalism on my own in regard, or even kind of like detective work in this regard, is that and she hints at this when she talks about who funds it, right? Well, Nick Bryant and Whitney Webb, they sort of present the sort of like they present the sort of like so they present the sort of ideological
I'm going to stop you for a second. I started smoking again when I fell into a depression.
Oh, smoking weed?
No, tobacco. Well, no, I'm sorry. No, just rolling tobacco. And I'll quit again because I haven't smoked for years, like 10 years more.
Oh.
How old's my youngest? 10? Yeah. but it's just one of those things that, so now at night I have a couple of cigarettes. So don't judge me. But I just had after, this is the thing, is if I have more than one glass of wine, I start jonesing for it. And I'm looking over there at my tobacco and I'm all,
Well, go ahead, line up. Okay, so basically what I'm trying
no,
to say is,
no, just say no. And the reason why I picked up this habit, let me tell you, because I started waiting tables when I was 16, and I swear every single person at that restaurant smoked menthol cigarettes, all the women. And I just, started.
right.
And then when I got home, I just say, oh, well, I was in the workstation, I was in the break room, and everybody smokes there, so blah 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 blah. And ever since then, I'll smoke for a while, and then I won't for like who knows, months, years, and then it starts again, and it stops, and starts again, and stops. Every time I got pregnant, I stopped. That's how I knew, because I was like, oh, didn't want to drink or smoke. But anyway, sorry, everybody.
Okay, so no, you're fine.
Nobody.
Okay, so basically,
I'm gonna die, and I'm like, yeah, we're all gonna die. Okay.
Okay, so basically what I'm getting at is basically that I've come to believe and understand that not obviously it's not in its entirety, but a section of the people who fund what this woman says that they fund, right? Those people are essentially they essentially believe in like a mixture of like black magic and Gnosticism. And there's evidence to back this up, in particular in regards to this sort of elite pedophile networks that are essentially intertwined with the transhumanist movement. And some of the victims that have come out, like Annika Lucas, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she describes, she was essentially part of that famous, and I think because you're in Europe, you'd probably know this a lot more. The Dutroux scandal that happened in Belgium, where basically the elites were sacrificing kids in black magic rituals and like also like engaging in pedophilic orgies.
Sounds like an Illuminati.
Well, it kind of is. So it kind of is, but basically the Epstein.
Things that, like, there was a court case and whatnot, or is this?
Yeah, the Dutroux. It was a big thing. It was a big thing, right? Just like the Franklin scandal here in the United States. Yeah, just like the Franklin scandal here in the United States. So, like in the Franklin scandal, it was essentially a transnational pedophile network that was essentially ran by the Reagan and Bush White House. Within this network, and I've read the social service reports. Right. So within this network, right? Within this network, I've read the social service reports. Within this network, high-level business people and high-level politicians.
I can't hear you, Tony. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you. I can't hear Tony. Tony, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, you didn't just mute my ass. Wait, I hope you didn't mute me. You didn't mute me, did you?
No, I couldn't hear you. All of a sudden, it sounded like I heard like I heard noise, but I couldn't hear your voice.
Okay. Well, basically, okay. So basically, and I'll send you the links so it would be corroborated, so you know that I'm not just blowing smoke out of my ass. Basically, the transhumanist movement is connected to elite ran pedophile networks, but behind all of it is an elite that essentially is practicing a form of Gnostic black magic. Well, I'm not saying that black magic is real. I'm not saying that the universe is Gnostic, because I don't know. But I'm saying this is what they believe, and this is what that is funneling all this. So yes, she's right in the sense that they're trying to create a new type of human, but they're trying to create the new type of human because they're trying to become gods, because their perception.
They might. I mean, yeah, they're doing it through technology, but yeah, their ideology. I mean, how they talk about it. I mean, they're trying to trying to transcend the boundaries of that's why transhumanism quite rightly. So yeah, I mean, kind of becoming God, whatever. Yeah, I understand the parallels. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
and so
perhaps in addition to their multi-billion lab apparatus and all this stuff, maybe they're also have ritual rooms. I don't know.
no,
But,
they do. Yeah, no, they literally do. They look like I'll send you after this is done. I'll send you some links. I'll send you Nick Bryant's interview with one of Epstein's victims, the South African model who describes waking up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Anything's possible.
No, but it's not just possible. It's literally going on, and it's literally interwoven. Like this is literally interwoven, and this is like the sort of like thing that's going on. Now, I'm not saying that I believe in it. I'm not saying that magic. What I'm saying is this is what they believe, and this is what they're doing.
Tony's gone out again. I don't know if it's mine. Nope. What's going on, Tony? Tony has gone out again. He's going to come in. Nope. What's going on, Tony? I don't hear you.
Hello?
Oh.
Wait.
Deep
oh, wait,
state.
now you...
Deep state.
No, you're fucking muting me. Are you fucking muting me? Like
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
Okay. No, I'm just that was just that's what I wanted to basically say. I have nothing else to say after.
They're everywhere, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So how are we doing? Should we put a pin in that, on that note?
But you didn't want to talk about Haz's video.
No. Huh? Yeah. Haz's video. Okay. So next thing, let's see. Put my slides here. Back to stage. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look. So Daniell Tutt, he's a professor, or I don't know if he's a full professor or associate professor of philosophy, I think, or maybe comparative, whatever department they're in. And he did this tweet last week, and it says, "It is tempting to laugh at MAGA communism as some internet parody, as just a pure LARP. Although it certainly has an absurdist platform, it also has a massive internet following. Only more sober socialist politics can disband these silly movements. And part of that is on philosophy to dispute Dugin and right-wing Heideggerianism as at all necessary to Marxist and socialist practice and thought. It is better to make those points than it is to laugh at the seeming ludicrous political theater of it all." Oh, Daniel. Oh, those people are not doing it right. I don't approve of your theoretical configuration. You bad people. You should come to my group. Anyway, sorry. He's nice. He is. I think that Daniell's actually, nice, and obviously he's extremely well-read, knows his theory and philosophy, in a course type of way. Like if he would be able to put together a good syllabus. But I don't know if I've seen him before. There was Capital Media one, and he just comes up kind of pretentious. I don't know if he means to, but it's just kind of interesting. It's kind of like they figured it out, like they know what the right mix of theory is and what the right things to do are, even though nothing is going right and everything's going to crap and there's been no really potent enough ever. But they know all of it, all material evidence to the contrary. These guys know, and guys or thems. Okay, so unsurprisingly, some people who are supporters of that fall under MAGA communism, or they think that it is a meaningful political distinction, and there's something there to be redeemed redirect it, within a more class, to put class at the center of it, rather than a populist us against them or are not that, but populist type of thing, with all the issues that comes with that. So then he says, since my post about MAGA communism, I've interacted with some of the followers. This is so awesome. And this is why he will never be a working class hero. Okay, I think they're very close to what Wilfred Bion called a dependent group, which refers to a group in which the leadership structure is based around one leader at the top who is taken to be benevolent and unsurpassable. Bion says the followers of dependent groups have unworked out Oedipal attachments, don't we all? And that these unworked out attachments are stabilized with the leader of the group. He got all that from, okay. It's no surprise that they are staging some rivalrous back. It's no surprise that they're staging some rivalrous back and forth with me. Well, you started it, dude. I mean,
yeah, by pedantically trying to call them out.
Hold on. Calling me gay. Which he takes literally. He can't understand that gay can mean like don't be gay, like I don't know. But I see what he's saying. And conjuring some ideas, I'm trying to hold them back. You can't stop us. They treat me as if I'm a projected father figure holding them back. No, they don't see you as a father. But Bion actually says dependent groups are long-lasting and they're not even close to as violent as what he calls the fight of flight group. Okay, so anyway, this is interesting. So, so apparently him and Haas got together and they agreed to have a talk. And he went on Haas's stream last night. So Tony and I are going to watch a bit of that if this works. And then we're going to, we'll stop and we'll stop it throughout when one of us has something to say. So let's see if I can now get that to work. Share screen. Why is this not? Okay, here we go. Okay, so is this going to work? Yeah, okay. So let's see. Here we go.
Washington something. I don't
hear
remember university
yeah, I can hear
at all.
Can you hear it?
George Washington, something like that, university. But he's pretty notable
Daniell
figure in the sphere of
yeah, this is the beginning.
Continental philosophers within the United States. I remember him and his presence before I started streaming, so that'll give you an idea. Anyway, he had some disagreements that he wanted to talk about. First, beginning with MAGA communism. He seemed like he was kind of pathologizing the phenomena by basically saying that MAGA communism is just about, Haas being a father figure to all of these people.
That's a terrible thing.
Something along those lines.
Right.
It's very clear we have diverging views on psychoanalysis, on Lacan, on MAGA communism. He mentioned that he believed that my orientation philosophically was irrationalist because of my integration of the ideas of Alexander Dugin and Heidegger. So we want to discuss these things, but I want to preface something. In DMs, we came to an agreement and an understanding that this would not be a fight. This is not about proving who's smarter or who has better credentials. It's not a psyop, thank you so much. It's not about proving whose reputation should be better than the others. It's not about, I did see some interesting comments by people saying this is about the final nail in the coffin of MAGA communism, and I just assume this has nothing to do with him or his intentions, because it's kind of ridiculous. If you look at what we've been doing behind the scenes and the connections we've been making on the international level.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward
I don't know.
Get to the
I don't know.
Part.
from society and so on and so on. But anyway, I don't want to ramble. Without further ado, we're just going to kind of get into it, and I'm going to invite him now. Okay.
Having technical difficulty.
Which he wrote for Cosmonaut on Nietzsche introduction. So
I do.
Okay,
Yeah.
here we go.
Awesome, Matt. So we're
Comes
live.
in hot.
yep.
First of all, Ramadan Mubarak. If you are observing the holy month, thank you for having me. I'm actually looking forward to this exchange. I think it's important that I give a sense of an explanation as to why I'm here, given that there's been several people on the left that have called for me to be canceled because I'm here. They find your movement to be fascist and to be red-brownist. For them, they have an issue of not platforming.
Okay, I have to start right there. It's like, because this to me, and this is just my interpretation. Look at me, like people have been calling for me to be canceled because I'm daring to come on here. So, and to me, how I don't know how you saw this for but to me, how I thought that this first part was basically he doesn't want to get shit for going on here, so he has to get all these things in, the LGBT thing, the tweet thing, the racist thing, or this type of thing, so that afterwards someone can't his peers or followers can't be like, well, you didn't say. They can't come back at him and have him force him to do some sort of struggle session. So I think that he that's how I saw this. The first couple of minutes of this, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is. And again, I don't know all the ins and outs of MAGA communism. I know who Haas is. I first started following him after October 7th because he was going on Spaces with what's his name, Jackson Hinkle, and he was just dispatching Zionist bullshit left and right. He's he knows his shit. And I was like, geez, who is this guy, And so I just and I liked his thing about why Marxism isn't woke and whatnot. But I don't know all the ins and outs of MAGA communism. All I really know is that there's like him and some other people think that they're trying to reach out, they're trying to, break bread, mobilize with people who are from, the grassroots of MAGA workers, whatever. Because they see it as there's something there, that it's not to be dismissed as just reactionary.
Yeah, they see it.
Backward.
They see.
Okay, so if you know more about MAGA communism, let us know. Tell me.
Yeah, well, according to Has, he believes that that the MAGA movement is the only, in his words, counter-hegemonic movement against the sort of values of the bourgeoisie. Yeah, that yes, it isn't. That yes, it's reactionary, but it's incoherent. But it's only incoherent because I guess what he's trying to say is that subconsciously, it's left wing, and that him and Jackson Hinkle are trying to essentially unbury that subconscious impulse and sort of make it conscious.
Yeah. No, and my thing is like they're like, all the grievances and the issues that MAGA has, they're gonna be like, yeah, those legitimate, but why don't we look at it this way? Or bring a kind of a political economic analysis, a class-centered analysis to it, how whatever. But that's kind of what I got as well. Is that they are trying. It is a political thing. There's a line in the sand. There's opposed to the lead or whatever it is, or the swamp or whatever. So he would agree with most of the. They would agree with most of the criticism of MAGA, but still say they don't go the deplorable route. Yeah, there's stuff you got to work. You got to work with where you and the people around you are at, and just to dismiss this as whatever, or to talk down is problematic. And God's work. If they're actually going out and going these places and having conversations and not hiding the fact that they're communist, takes balls, so to speak. And
it does.
Okay, but I thought this is kind of like, he starts off saying, this idea like there's people calling for me to be canceled because I'm going on this. It's like you're going on a string to talk about theory.
Yeah.
So my thing is that it never once occurs to him apparently that maybe that's a problem. that has nothing to do with MAGA communism. The fact that you have people on your quote unquote side or in your milieu who are saying that calling for you to be canceled because you're going to go and have a talk with this guy. I mean, what's that about?
Sounds
anyway,
very,
so I just kind of saw
sounds very pedantic, right?
As a kind of like thing when like if someone wants to say something that somebody said, and that'd be like, well, I usually don't agree with this and that, or this person, I know that this person is X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3. However, this little bit, he's just trying to protect himself. Which I understand, given the climate, that he says, okay, I said the transphobic thing, I said this thing, I said that thing, so I'm okay. I've so the people who are watching this to try to get me or scrutinize that I wasn't, tough enough on him, I'll be okay. Anyway, anything you want to say at this little bit? Okay.
No.
I mean, reactionaries. And based on my study of your movement, on your work, people have been sharing a lot of information with me about you and infrared. What I noticed is that everything you do seems to be out in the open, unlike, for example, the conservative but quasi-socialist magazine Compact. Infrared seems to be an evolving platform with new ideas and strategies constantly being adopted. So, after researching all of that and consulting with comrades and people I trust, I've decided to engage you because I think you are communists, and I am doing so on the basis that we do have serious theoretical disagreements. Now, I will admit that I think a lot of what you propose is problematic in terms of your theoretical understanding of Marxist politics. Specifically, I'm concerned with a combination of Dugin's right-wing, sort of mystical Heideggerian nationalism with Marxism. This is not convincing to me, and I find it to be dangerous. But I also find that Heidegger's thought more generally is problematic for Marx. And for Marx and Engels, I don't see that linkage. This is something we can explore tonight. But why am I here? This started because I shared a tweet from your interview with Dugin in Russia, and I noticed a few things about your followers that struck me. You have become a sort of what we might call in psychoanalytic theory a father of the horde to a bunch of disaffected young people.
This made me fall off my chair. You were like become a father of the horde to disaffected young people, and I was like, okay. And it's so hilarious. It's like, it's this idea that any type of assertive masculine presence is ultimately suspect from the beginning.
Bingo!
Like, God forbid,
yes.
disaffected young men find something, are drawn to him. Better, I mean, it's like, it's just like, what would your preference be, that they go to him or to Andrew, to the Tates? Which I also think, they're not my cup of tea, but I think they're overly, I think they're made into this big bad wolf,
right, or do you want these kids to go fucking shoot up a school?
Yeah, or to become trans, because, that's where the real liberation is. Liberate from their bodies. It's just so funny. And to me, it's like, that he came in, I mean, I could see that maybe he was, I don't know, maybe they really came from online, I don't know. But it also seemed like how this weird thing, like they have this thing, it's their thing, MAGA communism, they're doing their thing, and this guy decides to come in and be like, well, I have an issue with your theoretical framework and problematic interpretations of Marx, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, fuck you. If it works for them, who gives a shit? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's like, I should say at the beginning, I know a bit about Dugin. I know a bit about Heidegger, but I'm not an expert at all in Heidegger. I know that he's, problematic. But it was like, who gives a shit? It's like, if it works for them and it helps them think, and it's generative, this idea that somehow, oh, this is scary stuff. I mean, this Dugin and this Heidegger,
right.
he's gonna come in and he's gonna let you. Like, it's like the Harry Potter thing. This is the restricted section, and you don't go there. And it just, and again, I don't want to, anybody who's watching it, I don't. He's a nice guy. I think his intentions are good. He's a nice guy, but I think he's really kind of been, I don't know, just this captured almost by this LGBTQ. I don't say LGBT, but TQ plus. That sticks statistics on here. It's like the fact that they don't embrace gender identity somehow makes them, out to kill gay people. It's just like,
Right,
Anyway,
right.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
The
yeah. I
father
think
of the horde.
right, right. Yeah. I think
That's
and
fuck that.
right. I think with that dude. I don't even know. Oh, Daniel. Right. I think with Daniel. I think what's
Daniel Tutt. Dr.
right. I
Tutt.
think what
Not King
right.
Tut, Dr. Tutt.
Right. I think what's wrong with Daniel is that he doesn't realize that within the context of him living in the United States, he's grown up and was raised in a culture that essentially depersonalized himself, and so so anything that's a return to tradition in a positive way, he's going to automatically see it as a negative because he's grown up in a culture that he's been yeah he's been he's been enculturated to think that
Tony,
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I just want to point out here that I don't think it's a coincidence that fascist and father both start with F. No, I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, and then also, in regards to Dugan, I did watch Jackson and Haz in their meeting with Dugan. It was somewhat awkward because I think midway through, I could see it on his face. I think he realized that Dugan is a fascist mystic, and his political project is to essentially return to monarchy. That's what it is. But I do find what Haz and Jackson have unveiled in sort of reading Dugan is a sense of, and this is why they cite Heidegger, and what Dugan actually mentions in the conversation is the sense of being in essence. And that's what Daniel doesn't have. That he's a depersonalized asexual, so he's not going to understand anybody with a masculine. He's not going to, he's not going to, he's not going to understand a man who's heteronormative and masculine because he doesn't understand what being in essence is, and so he misconstrues being in essence as being as intrinsically being fascist. And the beauty and the genius of Haz is that he's saying, like, no, we can have being in essence and still be Marxist and still be on the left. We don't that doesn't necessarily have to lead towards Hitler and fascism, but Dugan is a fascist.
Well, that's a statement you have to prove. I can't say I don't know enough. I don't know enough. I've only read his a bit of his political Platonism. Is that what it is? And the fourth political theory, and he's basically, because he's saying, I mean, maybe he's a subconscious fascist, but isn't it the thing that he says, like, there's like the last 200 years, whatever, we had liberalism, communism, and fascism, and we need to get that's like done or problematic,
right,
or I can't remember the exact thing. So, but anyway, I don't want to get into. Let's see what they have to say. But to say that he's a fascist, you would have to first define.
Well,
what
I
you
would
mean
say
by fascist,
I would say that Dugan is a monarchist. I would just say that Dugan is a monarchist. Okay, I won't say that Dugan's a fascist, but I'll say that Dugan is definitely.
You can have a fascist monarch.
Huh?
You can have a lovely monarch. You can have a fascist monarch, but there's nothing essentially fascist about monarch. I mean, it's a rule of one, right? Or
right.
Well, whoever rules them, but okay. Let's see after he's like a father of, what is it, of the horde? Is that what he said? Okay, let's see.
And of course, I think, Haz, you bring this upon yourself by calling yourself a warlord. And this is interesting to me, I think, because based on my research, you probably were inspired by French theory and Deleuze and Guattari's notion of the war machine.
Okay, I just have to say something. I don't know if he's being literal because he's just literal, which would be weird for someone who reads the theory and the philosophy that he does. But does he actually think that Haz actually thinks he's a warlord, and that people actually think, like, it's kind of like, or when people were pissed off about his comment and calling him, like, oh, you're so gay, that gay can mean different things. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I guess it is obviously there is the association with gayness. This idea that somehow that automatically, I mean, I just find it like he takes it so literal. Like, you call yourself a warlord, and it's like, Do you actually think he thinks he's a warlord?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
I
sure, like, and it's so weird for like a guy steeped in French theory, and there's the play, and there's the signifiers, and there's this and that, and it's like, it's kind of, I just found it kind of interesting, like so literal.
right. I think
kind of laugh.
yeah, I think by him taking it so literally, he reveals that he's like, he later claims that he's from the working class. He's not, because if he was from the working class, he would know that when we say, "Oh, nigga, you're gay," or "you're gay," or like that, when we say things like that and we use that kind of language, we're not saying like, "Oh, you're gay," and oh, like as in like you have sex with men. We're saying like you're stupid, you're dumb, but that's a working class slang, um he doesn't understand that, and he kind of reveals that he comes from a huh.
And that's one of the problems with the working class, yeah, and the regulars, the plebs, because they don't realize how racist and terrible and homophobic they are. And you have to be very careful about your language, because language hurts, words hurt, words are violence. Yeah, and I can see that. Like, I would, I have my son, this is all the time. Oh, it's gay, that's gay. And of course, depending on the context, when he's around his friends, whatever. But like, if they were doing that and we were walking around, out and about, I'd be like, dude, can you just stop? Because people are going to take that the wrong way. Even though
you're right.
I know that I know he's not like, against LGBT rights and all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just so this idea that, that's always like the most terrible thing you can ever do is call somebody gay in a way that's not affirming and like, you're so gay. But it's the problem. That's not something that I use, but it's like I'm just being around my son and his friends last year. It's like, I hear that all the time, and I'm like, all right. And they
I mean, I used to hear
homoerotic, and then I tease them about the homoerotic subtext, and they get mad, and I'm like, whatever. I don't think it's all play, baby. Okay. So let's see. Do you want to say something else? Should we let him go now? I'm sorry. That just cracked me up. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
But perhaps we can talk about that. But what really worried me in my interaction with the mega communists online was that many of them showed signs of some pretty regressive behavior. Okay, many of them peddled in some very retrograde culture war nonsense, and this involved even inciting violence to LGBTQ people. So I'm here because I think our differences are real and noticeable. We are both Marxists. I typically will not accept an invitation to engage anti-trans people that hide behind dark money like Compact, but I'm here because I understand that on the left in America, we're in a total mess.
Okay, here's the thing. What's more culture war nonsense than trans women or women? And preferred pronouns and birthing person and...
True.
I mean...
Yeah, what's more
it's
divisive than that?
It's like, well, not just so. I wouldn't say. I mean, like, it's like, for me, again, just for anyone who's watching, if someone says they're trans, fine, be trans, whatever. The thing is, the idea that we're supposed to go on and pretend as if that person's actually the opposite sex, or no sex, or both sex, or they go back and forth, or all this stuff. It's like, it's this thing, or and all the stuff that falls from that. I'm going to tell you, in this women's sports and bathrooms and prisons and domestic violence things, and there was a bill, the word mother isn't inclusive enough, so maybe we shouldn't use it in our literature. Or like the doctors, like, fuck you, man. There's this idea that not like that we have to read this whole thing. Yeah, there's nothing culture war or identity politics about that. But these guys calling him gay is hyper problematic. Transphobia. I mean, I don't know I have no idea what people were saying to him or whatever, but I just thought that was just so like, dude, it's just like the lack of self-awareness that when you're pointing the finger at somebody, there's three fingers pointing back at you. I found really odd, but that's typical. That's again this thing about this there's this LGBTQ plus like, I don't know, program that's been downloaded. They just can't see it.
Right.
Or they've been too groomed or accustomed or to not even, when he was talking about ideological, it's like, what's more, later in the stream, like, what's more ideological than gender identity? I mean,
True,
it's just
exactly. There's like a whole industry
and then
behind it.
there's abortion, and how corporate and how about commodification and the deconstruction and the proletarianization of sex and all this stuff. But that's all. No, it's just they're just regressive transphobes and homophobic and putting LGBT people at risk. Okay, maybe some of them are. I don't know, but I just found it to be really just interesting. Okay.
Yes. The fact you have created a platform based on the unity of opposites, MAGA and communism, is not lost on me. But when infrared followers adopt anti-LGBTQ politics, you've essentially adopted what I consider to be a hyper anti-politics. What is anti-politics? Anti-politics is the acceleration of bourgeois culture war polemics to the total abandonment of substantive proletarian politics. When anyone
What's
aggressively
proletarian about
persecutes LGBTQ
So, I'm sorry.
leftists, you all
Don't
look like
piss me off.
Republicans to me, not necessarily fascists. No, you look like standard bourgeois Republican culture warriors. Communists do not fan the flames of a pernicious and opportunistic culture war.
What happened? Hello? Cherry, I think you kind of glitched out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Can
you,
you hear
but
me?
it seemed like the
Great
I can hear you
literary
perfectly.
figure.
The video kind of glitched.
My
Okay.
comrade called me in tears, saying that this made him fear for his life. He also happens to be gay. His partner and him live in the rural South, and they both cried about this. So this shit has real consequences outside of the simulated online world. What if your brother happened to be gay? Do you think the working class is somehow not affected by LGBTQ expression? No, this comrade works a working class job, but even if he didn't, it wouldn't matter. We have no space or time or patience for regressive behavior. Haas, I think you're too young to know, but for me, I grew up in the 90s when homophobic slurs were normalized.
Okay, here's the thing again. It's like, I don't know, this idea that someone put out a tweet saying something, and it was so offensive to two of his comrades that they were crying because they're gay and they felt that it put their life in danger. I mean, it's like, if a tweet's going to make you cry, I mean, yeah, okay, fine. But I could see why he cares about that, because that's his friend. It's a personal thing. But politically, it's like, first of all, it wasn't his tweet. And second of all, it's just like this thing that there's no time for regressive politics. Transgenderism is regressive to the freaking core. It just is. And that doesn't mean that people can't identify as that and, wear what you want to wear, call your, all that stuff. They shouldn't, I'm not saying it should be against the law or anything like that. The idea that transgenderism is regressive, and if we question it at all, automatically he must be in the, I don't know if he's what. It just seems like any questioning of this gets cast as fascist, regressive, whatever. Like this idea that no, sex is real and matters in many situations, and all this stuff that going on, all this that Billick went on in her article, and when you mentioned the stuff that Whitney Webb and other people have done, there's somehow this isn't regressive at all. Just it's like there's just no it's like how could this is getting about LGBTQ capture, and of course the TQ plus captured the LGB, it seems, and there are, of course, I know that's not a monolithic unit, and there's lots of LGBT people who are really critical and want there's this thing about LGBT without the T and all this stuff. I get that. I'm just talking about framing it how he sees it, how I think he sees it. And the idea that none of us ever gave these people, these smart people, any pause, ever. It's like, no, if you say you're a woman, you're a woman. Sex is this, you get to choose if you're a man or a woman or a boy or a girl, and we all have to express, that's liberating, it's great, it's progressive. The only people, what could possibly, who could have an issue with that? I'm like, yeah, there's no way that you can make an argument that lots of people have, both gay and straight. This is, sparkly bottle, old wine misogyny and homophobia. This idea that, this and this and this is coded feminine, and this and this and this is coded masculine, and all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about what you just said?
Yeah, I think you're getting at everything. I think we need to continue to play the video because I think that would put more of what you were saying in context. But
Okay.
I'm with you. I'm with you in everything you're
Yes.
saying.
And I can tell you it was actually really dumb and stupid, and there's no need to go back to that. Nothing about communism should be about degrading people at this level. That is bourgeois liberalism. Communism is about dignity, freedom, self-expression, fostering individual independent thought and mass excellence. Never forget what the bourgeois parties can do when extermination is sanctioned. Well, we're witnessing right now, are we not, in Gaza? Unfortunately, there are many sources for extermination and exterminationist ideologies in our traditions, but they have no place in Marxism. None. We can talk about how exterminationist ideologies have functioned in the Old Testament, in religious
Except
traditions,
when we exterminate
all the
other
way up to modern
classes.
eugenics, and even in Nietzsche and Heidegger, right? We, on the other hand, have a tradition to uphold, and I want everyone listening to think very carefully, especially as we go into the election cycle.
Sorry, I just have to say, this idea that there's certain groups of people that you can't, that you have to be 100% affirming and thinking about all the time, is itself a tyranny. You know, it's like, I don't have to like everything and everyone. You know, and it's like, it's this idea that somehow I could say, like, you know, look at all the things that women have been through, and so if anybody ever says bitch or cunt or whatever, then that's
Right.
just, you know, which, you know, I hate the C word. This idea that you can't say anything negative or sarcastic or jokes about LGBTQ. I mean, or else you're like, you know, you're aiding and abetting an exterminationist politics. I'm like, come on. Now, are there people who
Yeah.
maybe want to do that? People who want to do everything, but this idea that somehow that some people calling him gay, or you're just gay online, is somehow akin to, you know, going back to the 1960s or the 1950s when it comes to sexual rights.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Essentially getting lynched.
I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, it's just like, okay, equal rights, fine, fantastic. And equal rights also means that some people are going to take the piss out of you. Some people are going to like it. And maybe this is also the thing that maybe having a month-long pride parade with people, some people having their dicks hanging out and coming in their S&M outfits, and people trying to convince prepubescent kids online to explore their gender identity and don't worry what your parents say. I'm not saying that this is the majority of people, but somehow you can't mention any of that because there's some sort of protected caste. So
Yeah,
there's no
you're right
divisions or
about.
problematic. I mean, it'd be the same thing as
Yeah.
romanticizing the working class. There's every bad, good, in between, all kinds of stuff.
True.
You know?
True. You're right. Yeah, you're right, and that's. Yeah,
Some
that's.
LGBT people are fuckers. Some of them are perverts. Some of them are criminals. Some of them are sociopaths. Some of them are thieves. And a lot of them, of course, most I would imagine, who knows, the same percentage of other groups, any other group you want to mark off, are not. So it's just this thing to me, like, you know, like there's just this,
Yeah, they
there's
want
just
to
no
put them
room
on a
for it.
pet.
There's no room for it. There's no room for it. And it's like there's no nuance about when you're verging on to, like, you know, homophobia, dangerous type of rhetoric, and people just saying something because they got pissed off because he came after their club. I mean, you know, it's just interesting to me, but we'll see.
Yeah,
And I don't know. It's this idea that maybe there are some places in the West, in the United States, where it's really still really super dangerous to be gay. Maybe that's true. That has been my. I mean, I'm not gay in the States, but from what I know, when I was there and when I being here, not more so than any other group at this point.
I agree.
Can that change? Yeah,
I agree.
anything can change. Things can change. Things can change. But this idea that somehow, I found it really kind of interesting. He thinks they want them all to be, you know, like they don't deserve their life, liberty, and happiness for some reason within the boundaries of other people's. Interesting to me. Okay, sorry. I'm really gonna try now not to stop every minute.
No, you're fine.
Powerful state entities that want you to fan the flames of a fake culture war, and everyone needs to be cautious. Do not give into it. How would you feel if it led to violence?
You've given
What if your
into
brother
it.
happened to be gay or trans? Would you want them to be hurt? We have a very sensitive situation on our hands, and we need to act with dignity and respect. Okay? So this is where I'm coming from on that issue. Let me say something briefly about myself so you don't think that I'm a soy Marxist professor. From a working class background, I entered the workforce right after 2008 economic crash with very little job prospects.
Sir, I just want to say that Oprah is also poor.
True. I mean, I'm
That's
confused.
the interesting thing is this idea about not being essentializing. It's like your class consciousness or habitus can change, and it doesn't take that long. You know? So this idea, like Oprah, just use an example, she grew up dirt poor. Yeah, and Jim Crow, what was it, Mississippi? I can't remember where she came from, somewhere in the South. Yeah? And all the stuff that happened to her, would you say that, could she go on to like, I come from a very, I'm very working class, in touch with my roots. Like, I don't know, but the idea that once, this, I don't know his current situation, but this idea that somehow, if I grew up in a working class family, I'm always and forever, that's the primary mode of thought or frame of reference that I have is dubious at best. It's kind of like I have a black friend or a trans friend or whatever. It's like my daddy worked the boondocks, and so it doesn't matter if I could be married to the head of BlackRock or something. I still can play that card. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what he says.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
Working construction and landscape.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was a brilliant point. It's
Tell
like
me
that
more
made
about
me
my
think,
great point.
yeah, that was like, that's like those people who will be like, oh, I'm Irish. Like, dude, you're not Irish. You're somebody who's lived here now like for a few generations. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, at some point you can't claim Irish, you can't claim Italian. You know what I mean? But that's it. That's all I have to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that Haas was very disarming and let him probably. I think my theory is he realized that he'd be nervous coming in there, and that to let him just kind of get this all off his chest, and then for him not to react to it the way he probably expected was probably. I think that he played it right. But it's just, I just found it really interesting. So he should have said, like, well, what about all the things he said about MAGA? What if your daughter was MAGA? What if your son was MAGA and you're putting them in danger? And, what about that? They were crying because these people were calling them these names and they're calling them racist all the time, and it really hurts them and puts them in danger. Why don't you think about that? There's no room for that. There's no room for that in our Marxism. Daniel.
He easily could have threw that at him, and he didn't. So yeah.
I'm a trans MAGA. What about me, bitch?
Now that would be a sight to see. A trans MAGA. That would be a sight to see.
It probably is. There is. Caitlyn Jenner. Okay.
Back in Oregon. But with all my heart and soul, I wanted to be a scholar, not necessarily an academic. I make a strong distinction actually between the two, in fact. And I was only able to go to grad school by living in the patronage of a wealthy real estate guy that I worked for, who I met off Craigslist.
As we all do.
In this process, I became a Marxist. For me, I want.
What did you have to do for that patronage, Daniel? Sorry. No. Can you hear me? I can't. Okay, hold on. Okay, hold on.
You all to know that socialism and class politics are highly personal. This is not a joke. This is not a game. I have family on welfare. I have family that have died from deaths of despair and drug overdoses. I understand the social decay that's happening in this country very well. I've seen the effects that poverty can have on people. Many of my family do not understand socialism. My father and my brother are MAGA. They're pro-Trump. They're conservative, but politically, I know they're completely lost. We need to be more dignified and respectful if we ever want to convince Americans of socialism. As a scholar of Marxism, it's imperative that we be very critical of the university, specifically of its politics, which are dismal and non-existent. As Marxists, we should pursue scholarship and knowledge as much as possible. The main problem with the university today is its exclusion. It is only for middle and upper middle class people, and this is a big reason why the university is no longer a political source at all. Let me finally say I am critical of the DSA and have never been a member due to their professional complicity with the Democratic Party. I have served on the executive committee of a group that I encourage all of you to learn about called Class Unity, an organization that aims to further Marxist analysis. Class Unity is totally independent of and critical of
Class
DSA.
Unity is good. Check out Class Unity.
They offer free courses on Marxism and socialism, which are amazing. While I am critical of DSA, I'm also a close member of Marxist Unity Group, and many of the comrades there encouraged me that this conversation is worth it. That's my intro. Sorry, that was long.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for coming on. We do appreciate your willingness to engage in dialogue. And I believe that the perspective you're coming from is a reasonable one, specifically when it comes to the concerns you've raised about comments that were made and potential concerns about fanning the flames of the culture war. I appreciate your comments on the need for communists to exude a level of excellency. I think that's a really great way of putting it. When I think of communists in China, when I think of communists like Xi Jinping, even communists in Russia, that's what they also strive for, is a level of professionalism and excellency, which to do a degree of self-criticism for the early years of infrared, we were lacking. However, we are striving to go in that direction more recently, especially because of a more international orientation we're taking for the moment. Without wanting to ramble, I want to address the question, hopefully we don't have to get too hung up on it, on LGBT politics and where we stand officially on it. Firstly, I would like to preface this by saying I absolutely do not condone the abuse, the attacking, the denigration of gay people or trans people or any other kind of sexual minority, let alone endorse the idea of exterminating them. I think the response to that specific phenomenon, while I have reservations about its causes, in the form of punishing the individuals and scolding them and attacking them, is probably even more symptomatic of any kind of decay, social decay and pathology, than the phenomenon itself could possibly be. And I've made my position clear on that. Our hostility and our inflammatory comments toward leftist members of that community, to be honest, stems from a very concrete experience we've had with them. We've had very ugly interactions with them. These people have tried to dox. They've tried to malign and slander us to the utmost degree. We didn't even begin in any way critical of LGBT politics. Originally, Infrared had members of the LGBT community in it, and there was no problem. But just by virtue of just minimally exuding a sense of heteronormativity, I guess, suddenly we got labeled transphobic and fascist and so on and so on. And they made this the primary contradiction, some of them at least. So it escalated to the point where there was an extreme overcorrection. We noticed, and this is primarily the criticism, that the critique of heteronormativity specifically, that is at the heart of Western leftism, is what makes it antisocial and bourgeois in nature, for even worse, potentially fascist in our eyes. My view on the LGBT...
I think this is really important because nobody hardly ever on the left is willing to be like, hello, we are a sexually dimorphic species, sexual reproduction. The vast majority of people are attracted to the opposite sex. So this idea that and to not apologize for that. And let me tell you something. I don't know if I'm getting old and cranky, but I remember way back when they first started having the African American History Month and Women's History Month and all that stuff. There'd be people, I had family members and also not just that, I think, be like, where's the regular white guy working month, or where's the this or the that, or why is there not the the family parade or whatever? And I used to always think like Jesus from last, like like every month is White History Month and blah blah blah. But it gets to a point where you get so irritated, so full of the white privilege and heteronormativity privilege and this privilege and this privilege. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there should be a regular white guy history month. Or hey, we're a straight, straight, regular, whatever, vanilla, not necessarily vanilla like in skin color, but in terms of nothing on the LGBTQ spectrum. And it's this idea is that for our total civilization, this man and woman, if for no other reason than that's how the species reproduces. And the differences and all that and whatever, it's like that shouldn't be in and of itself a regressive thing. And you're not going to get the majority of the working class. I totally agree with Haas on this, by quashing all that norm, by being like that there's something essentially tyrannical about heterosexuality. It's like that's what everybody fucking got here. So
yeah,
and I have no problem.
yes,
If you want to be
finally
gay,
somebody
gay,
fucking said it.
yeah. If you're gay or bi or don't like sex, whatever, God bless. I don't care. I mean, I don't mean like I don't care, but you know what I mean. But it's like still, the vast majority are straight, and that's sorry, a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
If most weren't, that would be very, very bad. It's already bad. If you can't reproduce the species, you got a problem.
Yes.
Especially if we're living longer. Yeah. And the population pyramids are getting messed up. So it's like, especially it's just it's this thing. It's like, it's not that that you don't have to be. It's like for homosexuality not to be demeaned or criminalized or otherized or whatever, doesn't mean that you have to keep on kicking heterosexuality and heteronormativity. You're going to get a backlash, and fuck, you should.
Yeah, you should.
I also want to say, like, you fucked out 3 kids, motherfucker. It's like, not him, but this, women this, women that, it's a feeling, and it's that, and blah, 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 biological essentialism. I'm like, I'm sorry, if a woman is an adult human female, then what the fuck is it? Liking what? Being fucked? Is it liking makeup? Is it liking to prance around like Dylan? And that's what it is? No, sorry. And it's
finally
like,
a woman
is an adult human female. Man, well, I'm not the first one. Man is an adult human male. And anything that a man does by definition is something that a man can do or does.
Yes.
And if you like to wear a dress, then you're a man who likes to wear a dress. If you're a woman who likes to be to dress like whatever, I sort of butch dyke. Sorry, it's fine. Nothing against that either. Then you're a woman who likes that, or prefers that, or needs to do it for whatever reason. You're not a guy in a woman's body. You're not a woman in a man's body. You're not non-binary. That's what I understand. And if they want to think that and say that and have their practices and all that, that's fine. But please, let's not act like it's Peter Pan. And if we don't all go along, you're going to combust. Sorry, it's been a long time coming. But it's just like, there's nothing wrong with. It's just like this idea that somehow we're supposed to feel bad or guilty or the patriarchy and the heteronormativity and this and that and the other. But yeah, I think that the pendulum has gotten so far over since it became adopted by all the bourgeois and the corporates and the Democratic Party and all this stuff, that it's just become oppressive. Yeah,
it has. I told you what happened to me last week.
Person, yeah.
Yeah, I told you what happened in that class. I told. Yeah, okay. So it's a cultural anthropology class, and the professor is this big, fat, bald white guy who is talking about essentially what you just said. He's basically trying to frame that heteronormativity and heterosexuality is oppressive, and then also Western society is oppressive, and that a hunter-gatherer society in the Amazon is somehow better because it's more equal, even though he's not understanding. It was so bizarre. Anyway, so I spoke up and I was just like, okay, look, I understand that there's a scale, right? But you can never get away from being a man or woman. Yeah, there's a scale of expression, but you'll still end up being a man wearing a dress or a woman wearing a basketball jersey. There's no third creature. There's no third. This is literally what I said. I was like, there's no third thing. You're either the two things or that's it.
And like viewers, you should know that you should notice that Tony's is in California. Yeah, he's in LA. So it was really bold for him to say this at his university.
Oh, it was very bold because like some of the women turned their heads towards me and were giving me stinky eyes. And then like one of them, who's a female incel, she told me she's an incel. She was trying to say, like, basically she got offended by what I was saying. And I told her, I kind of shutted her up, but she's an incel. So it's like, I'm not going to listen to you. You just told me that you don't have any friends and you live inside your bedroom all day. Like, why the fuck would I listen to you?
Well, yeah. No, I just think that it's gotten so, and maybe outside my the circles that I travel in, maybe in the quote unquote real world, people aren't so up their ass with this stuff. But it's just like it's just to me. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's good that the gay rights, good. I'm all for gay rights, fine. But this idea that somehow that there's something wrong or colonial about heterosexuality is just weird.
And yeah, and then not to mention,
that's anti-human.
Yeah,
that's anti-humanist.
It is, and not to mention,
no one would be here. And it's like to bring up Louis C.K., also not the most politically correct person. I think in one of his last shows, he's also like, great, LGBTQ, fine. But at some point, a regular pussy and a regular cock have got to come together some way. And, God bless. So it's just like, but again, what Jennifer Billick was talking about is all this stuff gets around that. Yeah. It's like, well, why? We can quote unquote free ourselves from sexual reproduction, as if that, of course, would be a great thing. Anyway, let's continue.
Politics is very simple. I believe that heteronormativity will always be the fundamental characteristic of any given society. That doesn't mean that exceptions to the norm need to be exterminated or abused or attacked. There are always going to be exceptions to the norm. My problem is raising those exceptions to the status of the norm, mounting a general critique against the norms of society in general. And the problem that leftists have with norms in general, I think, is where most of our problems are coming from. It's interesting that this critique of norms has become the dominant quality of leftism in the West, when if you read Lenin's State and Revolution, and he talks about a society after the dissolution or the withering away of the state, how the basic dignity of human beings is enforced and respected is through norms. He gives the example of when a woman is attacked on the street and a crowd just spontaneously and intuitively responds to that. That's how order will be enforced after the end of the state. So for him, there's clearly something very fundamental about norms that are not prescriptively arbitrated by a political consciousness or some kind of ideological consciousness, but reflect a accumulated experience of people living and coexisting with each other. I will admit there's an extent of an overcorrection on our part when it comes to our fights with the LGBT leftists. But as long as it can be respected, as long as the heteronormativity of the working class can be respected, and that is not raised to the level of, oh, this is the basis of fascism. We need to queer society and impose the exception to the level of the norm. We don't want to hunt down minorities and exceptions. We just want a clear understanding and appreciation of the dominant norm, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think one of the things in looking at your work is that I'd like to see more of is a deeper understanding and deeper appreciation of how these phenomena are reflective of capitalist alienation. And often, Haz, when you talk about the experience of leftists, sometimes you essentialize them in an idealist way by saying, like, for example, certain pathologies are unique to leftists by virtue of what? Is it by the virtue of their class position? Is it by virtue of their ideological choice? Because to me, that would be idealist. And it would also be missing the fact that generationally, there is certain forms of social alienation for which these phenomena are an expression. And as Marxists, we should have the solidarity to recognize that, because as I said in my opening remarks, never forget, and MAGA people know this in rural America, in all the post-industrial fucking places. And
I would love Daniel to bring this up to his LGBTQ friends, TQ plus friends, that that's an expression of their class of capitalist alienation.
I think he is. I will give him no.
Or am I getting that wrong?
No. I think he's.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that that would get him into a problem.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I see what you
That's
mean.
what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. If you're trying to say that all this gender stuff, 26, who knows how many genders there are now, is an expression of late capitalist alienation. They're coming for you, bud. You're going to have to go into some re-education. Go and educate yourself. Yeah. That's what I mean. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I definitely get what you're saying. That would be a pretty. I think he's. I would encourage him. I want to see more of that in his work. Yeah, I think he's boxed himself in here and doesn't really realize it. He's boxed himself.
He's never questioned anything about that stuff. I don't think.
No, he hasn't.
I think maybe there's like a chain of equivalence. L is G, is B, is T, is Q, is I, and whatever. And it's like, no, same-sex attraction has fuck all to do with everything after the B. So, what about that? I mean, whatever. I mean, anyway, let's see. I don't know why I'm so riled up.
Rural America, that how hard it is.
I want to be the mother of the horde.
A gay person. How hard it is.
I think you're there. I think you're getting there.
Local networks of solidarity, because the truth is, and Engels himself,
I will be the mother of the horde.
1917 brought the most egalitarian upsurge, which then led to China, for the rights of women and for the rights of sexual minorities. Unprecedented. Read Goran Thurborn's book on the history of the family. The biggest egalitarian expansion of the rights of women you could ever imagine, not premised on the forcing of a rigid patriarchal. No, that came later as a reaction, right? So communism has to be about sexual and individual liberation at this level, right? If we lose sight of that, we lose sight of what alienation is and how it's affecting all of us.
What I would say is that he's been bought into the capitalist aspect of the sexual revolution. Because how much it's like this, you have to be sexually liberated. You have to be sexually liberated. You have to, all this stuff. It's like, if you're not, then there's something wrong with you, or you have to feel guilty, or you're whatever, all this stuff.
Right.
It's like there's no downside to the quote unquote sexual liberation. And I would encourage people to look at, what's her name? Louise. Oh crap. I sent you the link to her book. Yeah. The case against the sexual revolution, something like that. And she's a feminist, she's all for that, but she basically just kind of looks at there's a downside to this. When sex becomes so transactional, guess what? There's a downside to that, particularly for women.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And it's
yeah,
not, and if you just look at the pill, if you look at the costs and the benefits and all this type of stuff. But this idea that sexual liberation, whatever that means, you know, is it can also become like a super ego thing that Zizek was like if you're not doing it, if you're not trying, and maybe that's why a lot of people are getting pushed into, you have this explosion of straight queer people, you know, spicy straight, I call them. That it's like this idea that somehow if you're not really a leftist. You know, you're not progressive if you're not, you know, questioning all these sexual norms and sexual.
Right, if you're not in an open relationship.
What does that really entail? Like it's like, oh, I've never had a threesome, so I'm sexually repressed, and you know, I'm just, you know, I've internalized patriarchy, and I should do that, and I'm, you know, I should have my partner have a strap on, and I should have this and all this stuff, and you know, it's like, well, okay, but it's just there. I think that there's, again, I would like to see more of a critique of this in his work. That's what I would say, because I found that, and he is, and I would say that it's great that he came here. It's great to have this conversation, but there is a condescension. There is a pretension.
Oh yeah, there is.
This idea that, you know, that at its core, Marxism is about sexual liberation. Is it? I mean,
that's not. Yeah, I mean,
I would say, I don't know. Who knows? I would say that, of course, if you use a strict historical materialist thing, that of course, sexuality and sexual relations are going to be all tied up in the in the mode of production, broadly understood. And of course, if you have technological changes, the pill and all this stuff and all these other things, you know, the 5,000 ways to make you get off or whatever. Then again, with this thing, it's like you're never going to be. It's a super ego injection. You're never going to be sexual liberated. I'm never going to be sexually liberated enough in this milieu. And I really don't think. I think there's something.
Kara, you just explained it. You just hit it on the head. Yeah, you just hit it on the head.
Because I could be your mother technically. Go ahead.
Yeah, you just hit it on the head. I would also
you're
like
you're the first member of my horde.
Yes, I am. Yes.
But I didn't birth. I mean, I have 3 kids. I have a 3-member horde, but you know, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to add to our audience what Tara just so beautifully sort of explained. I would also like to add, because I'm an artist and I'm a writer, and I'm also extremely heterosexual. I fucking love women. I love being around women. I love going on dates. I want to also add to this phenomena of what that man is intrinsically or inadvertently landing on, is that when he talks about the sexual revolution and all those different things, he's only talking about gay people. But for us heterosexuals, we're supposed to be mired in a de-eroticized personal experience where we don't experience erotic love or erotic attraction that's not pornographic. You understand what I'm saying? So that's another key part of it. And that's like, for me as an artist, that's what I've been working towards creating art that is heterosexually erotic and romantic, because that's what's lacking in heterosexual life. Because I definitely think the sort of, oh, let's have a threesome. Oh, let me make my girlfriend a lesbian. Oh, let my girlfriend fuck me with a strap on. That's because it's like there's no hetero, huh? There's no, it's
my
there's no
liberated,
yeah. So and
if people are into that, that's cool, man. Cool.
Yeah, if people,
but you know, itself, it's anything, you know, important.
If people are into it, that's fine. But for us who, I just want to chill with my wife on the sofa and just like have like you know, like that kind of vibe. Like that's what that guy's dismissing. So when he talks about sex, he's talking about that for the gays. Let's just keep it real, everyone. But for us heterosexuals, we're supposed to just be mired in a de-eroticized, de-romantic existence. Like, no, fuck you.
Well, we'll see. Of course, we're human, so we always read everything into this that is in it and tangential to it. So we're making him.
Well,
our,
it'd be interesting to know if he's
we're
actually
making
married
him.
or
We're
not.
making him. We're making him. Yeah, he's the stand-in for the big other. Here we go. The leftist LGBTQ captured big other.
So what I'm worried about is the question of solidarity when we think this, and also the rerouting away from materialist analysis, the risk of that, and getting caught and mired. The bourgeois parties would love for us to be caught and mired in this debate for eternity, would they not? Would you agree to that?
I suppose, but I think the issue is that when discussing the topic of alienation and the class origins of this position, I agree it does stem from a violent alienation from communal norms and family norms, which has material and class causes. But I think a minimally orthodox Marxist perspective would locate the proliferation of sexual abnormality in general to the lumpenization of the proletarian class. It seems like if we glean the basic history of how communists have appraised the significance of the family for the working class, it's not the nuclear family of the bourgeoisie, which is isolated and egotistical and based only on the transmission of property. It's more like the extended family, which actually seems to be the norm for most of human history, actually. But nonetheless, the proletariat is heteronormative. And
well, I mean, the Frankfurt School came up with an interesting idea in this regard, which
just
I
accept
work with
it,
in my research and
dude.
in my writing.
Just accept
There's a
it.
paradoxical
Why does he
insight,
gotta
which is
fight
that the
it?
bourgeois family produced
Can
a
somebody explain that to me? Why does he have to fight it? That's the question here. Why do people like him have to fight it? I don't get it. He's not gay, so why does he have to fight it?
Fight what?
He's like when Has says that the working class across civilization, across time is heteronormative, this guy wants to interrupt him for no fucking reason and try to disprove it. And it's like, no, like we literally exist.
Well, no, it's the idea that factually it's true. And the idea, and there's a material reason and a biological material reason, but also a familial one, all kinds of things for that. And it can take various forms, of course. But yeah, I think, and it's interesting, you went, well, with the Frankfurt School and the bourgeois family, and it's all that. It's like, well, the bourgeois family didn't invent heteronormativity.
True.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't, hunters and gatherers. Who were the hunters?
Men.
Who were the gatherers?
Women.
No, were there some vice versa? Okay, but the norm, for obvious reasons, if you think about it, Okay, let's see what he's going to say about that. He's going to bring the Frankfurt School in here now because nobody's a bigger expert on the family than Adorno. Okay.
That the working class had a dialectical relationship with, which at times was envious, because if you are a working class person, we know from studies today that working class people want to reproduce a family. The problem is the material realities that's preventing them from doing it. That's the same dynamic that Marx and Engels talked about in Communist Manifesto 1848. The immiseration of proletarianization was blocking the promises of bourgeois property ownership and family, right?
And also, of course, they're speaking off the cuff, but it's also the fact that the bourgeois family, when I think the norm is like, there's a mother and father and 2+ kids, and the father works and the mother stays home. This kind of domesticity and all this stuff, and that of course working class wise, most working class people can't afford that, even if they were to want it. Because why would anybody want to actually raise their kids? God forbid. That's so oppressive. But that's the thing that kind of gets missed here. It's like when you say that the bourgeois family, to me, I think, okay, like the stereotype, like the quintessential paradigmatic that was, the male breadwinner who works outside the home, the mother's in the home, 2 plus some kids, this type of thing. And of course, if that is the standard that people are being judged by, and if you come from a place where even if you wanted to, you can't afford not to work, or you can't afford that to attain that norm, that makes sense. But the idea that there's anything that somehow we took over like the bourgeois family, there was it was a form of heteronormativity. They certainly didn't invent it, or that wasn't an invention of it. Let's see.
As such, part of the question that Frankfurt School recognized, like Adorno and Horkheimer, which I don't like them often, but I think this insight is correct, that over time, what happened was the subjectivity that a stable family could produce could actually give you a subject that could more rationally exist in the world and contest authority. So the problem with the neoliberal period, the world we live in now, is that we have lost the stability of the family. And in the loss of that stability, I think we agree on this point, we have a stunted, well, in a fancy sense, a stunted Oedipal situation. We can define what the hell that word means in a moment. So it's from that cause that I think we can then analyze back these phenomena, these situations. I wouldn't call them abnormalities because, I mean, what the hell does that mean? What's the norm there? That's a problematic concept for me. But
heteronormativity is the norm.
Problem over when the market dominates social life and the family and erodes all stability to like it is today. Adorno and Horkheimer basically say subjects can no longer adequately contest authority. That's the big insight that they have. And so therefore, it's not good for revolutionary politics to have this unstable family. So, I mean, I think the question is not so much should the family be a certain transcendental patriarchal way. It's a material question. Should people have the freedom, the radical freedom, to experiment in communal living, to experiment in the form of a bourgeois family in some...
I don't know what he's saying
also
there.
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I don't think he knows what he's saying either. He can't. He knows that he's going to get canceled if he doesn't strike back here, I think. I'm just reading that into it, but it's experiment. It's like, the best case scenario in the world that we live in is for kids to have a mom and a dad. And if you're lucky, which is unfortunate, you have to say lucky now, you also have regular access to your grandparents, to aunts and uncles, to cousins and all this. But since we're kind of more dispersed now in our part of the world, that's more difficult. So you're on your own, you have to pay for everything, that kind of support. But it's the idea that somehow, like, I can't even, how would that work? Like I'm going to farm out, someone else is going to be like, I'm not really the mother. There's going to be like a general mother, or the state's going to be the mother, or whatever. It's like, no one's going to put up with my kids' shit like I do. Because why? Because I'm their mom, and their dad's their dad.
Yeah,
you mean you don't want other people involved in it? It's this idea that now, does it have to be in what, there could be various things in that, but the fact is, it doesn't mean that people that only have one parent are bad or anything like that. But it's the idea that I can tell you that with the 3 kids that I had, is that I would have lost my motherfucking mind if my husband wasn't here to take the load off when I needed him to, and vice versa. And that there's something that they get from the relationship with their dad that they can never get from. Because he's not a woman, I'm not a man, I'm not their dad, And if they didn't have, I'm not saying that people that don't have that are somehow, bad or anything like that. This idea like, oh, you should be able to experiment. Yeah, you should be able to experiment. But where have been the successful experiments? Show me that. Show me where, in the world we live in now, in the capitalist world, where you got to sell you got to work to live and all this stuff. What would be the experiments, or the even possibility of experiments, like we're going to live in a commune. That's also, communes are rife for sexual abuse, so there's also that little problem.
True.
So I mean, I haven't really thought about this too much. But this idea, well, you should, it's this idea. Well, if it's not broke, why fix it?
Right.
I mean,
That's
the best case
that's
scenario, and this also, and we don't want to admit that we have biological constraints. And the thing is, with the political economy and culture we live in now, I mean, it's just still true. The fact the best time for a woman, and probably for men as well, to have a kid is in their 20s. Yeah, physically. I'm not talking about anything like physically, like energy-wise, and in the fertility and all this stuff. It's like from 18 to 28 probably to have your kids. But the economy we live in now, that's financially the worst time to do it. So the best time physically to have a kid is the worst time financially or economically to have one. That's a problem. And and I think that's one issue. And this idea that somehow it's just really weird how we got to this place that somehow does everybody have to have a baby? No. Does everybody want to be a parent? No. But the idea that somehow that's not foundational, that families, and what makes a family, what I'm talking about is like, the most, and people can get pissed as they want, but the thing that makes the strongest link that makes the family is having a kid.
You're right.
That's the thing. I mean, I can have really close friends and other family members, but what makes a family, like adding an additional family to the pile of families, is having kids.
Yes.
And how are kids made, Daniell Tutt? And the idea that maybe if people wanted to do this, fantastic, but I don't think I would have been happier when I was having my kids if I was living in some sort of commune where there was 5 dads and 5 mothers. I mean, it would have been nice to have you help each other out with childcare and whatnot. But it's
right. It's ridiculous.
This relationship, it's just that there's the mother-child, father-child, mother-father relationship is important. It's key. It's central, and that doesn't mean that people can't be gay or they have to do that, whatever. But I think that it's really interesting that I don't think he'd be physically able to say that. And that's fine.
No, I don't think he can, yeah.
I mean, maybe he's one of the balls for family people. I don't know.
Hey, I think we should maybe.
And it's also this idea that patriarchy is 100% bad. Like we have to deal with patriarchy. Yeah, there's a spectrum of patriarchy. Yeah, and it's like if I would say that Dylan Mulvaney is the new face of patriarchy, I'd much rather have my mom's patriarchy than that shit.
Mm-hmm.
I had a father who was like, it's my way or the highway because I said so, this, that, and whatever. And I rebelled against that. And yeah, he provided, I was never beaten or, basic thing. So was that a patriarchy? Yeah. Would I rather have that than some non-binary trans mom who's like, maybe you're a they, maybe you're them, maybe you're this. Oh, we have to talk everything out because I don't want to be oppressive. And, you came out, it's just like, my God, what a nightmare. Sometimes you need authority. There's good hierarchy and bad hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced of this.
Bingo, I'm with you. I think that's why
there's no one size fits all.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the Leninist vanguard party. That's a tacit admission that you have to have a sophisticated hierarchy in regards to civilization. Like this whole sort of anarchist chaos realm that these people want.
And also, I would say that a woman can take on a patriarchal role. It's also possible. I take one on every once in a while.
Yes.
With my son. His dad is just like, well, what can you do? And well, I don't know. And I tell him, and he does this or whatever. And I'm all like, I channel my patriarchal father, who I hate in ways that I hate at the time. And I'm like, listen, I tell my girls to go upstairs because he's 17 and a half now. And I'm like, listen here, you motherfucker. It's like, when he needs it. Would I have done that a year ago or 3 years ago? No. But I'll be like, you listen to me. Let me tell you something. It's my goddamn house. And if you ever do blah, blah, blah again, you'll be coming home, you'll be finding that you'll be gone, that you're not welcome here for a couple of days. Good luck.
Yeah, that's how you
know,
have to
is that
raise a young man.
Is that patriarchal? And I don't do it because, yeah, and sometimes I think about it later, like, oh, that was too bad, or I lost my temper with him. And then I think about what he's doing, and I'm like, no, he needs that.
Yeah, he needs that because he's young. He's a young man. You have to raise young men with stern.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, she'll be like, well, you know, I've got so oppressive, and I just like I have to be, you know, I have to look at how this bad behavior of stealing at the Tesco's is reflection of his late capitalist alienation and blah blah blah, and you know, I'm like, no. I mean, it could be, but anyway, I just wanted to say that women can also take on a patriarchal position.
Yeah, very much so. But I will say this because let's do a part 2 tomorrow because I want to go eat and I'm fucking hungry. Let's do a part 2 tomorrow.
Okay,
if you
let's
can,
get
if you're
canceled,
available.
baby. So Tony, I miss you. I'm glad we're doing this again. I like our vibe.
Yes. I think we've both reconciled our energy.
Yeah, we have no.
We're both energetic.
Okay, so anybody who's been watching, thank you. We only got through a bit of the infrared, but do you want to come back later and do some more? Go through a bit more of this?
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. Let me know. Okay, so I just want to channel Russell Brand for some reason. So our awakening wonders. Anybody who's been listening, thank you. It's been a wild ride. We speak freely. We're not always right, but we don't lie. You could be wrong. Bring us up together. But I think now is a time to speak freely and even recklessly and whatever. Of course, we wish no one any, ill will or physical violence, except for the Netanyahu and Nadia. Okay, so except for the war machine. Except for the war machine. Fuck them. Okay. Inshallah, Ramadan. How do you say it? Ramadan Mabruk? Is it Mabruk? I can't remember anymore because I'm also tired. Okay. Blessings, Tony, my internet son. We will check in. So we'll do part 2 tomorrow if it works out. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.